Live from Beit Shemesh and broadcasted around the world, you are listening to the Frum Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Nachum Kligman. Interviews and advice from Jewish entrepreneurs from around the world. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Frum Entrepreneur. And today's episode is a podcast about a video on how to podcast. So it's very interesting. I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on this video I posted. It's actually a speech I gave at the Parnassah Expo in New Jersey a couple weeks before Pesach. And I wanted just to talk a little bit about how that came about and what the video talked about and why I think it's important for you to listen to. So anyway, when I get into something, I like to delve in, I like to study, I like to really learn it, as if it was like any college course. And so before launching this podcast, I spent, tens and tens of hours studying, learning, looking to everything there was about podcasting. And truth is, I was looking to get into something new in online marketing or in media. And when I came across podcasting, I was just enthralled about the opportunity. I was enthralled about where podcasting was going, the fact that there's still a huge opportunity in my niche and in most niches. It's not a saturated market, yet the market consistently has been growing, and it's been growing more in the last year than it has in the last, few years before that. And I think now in 2015, 2016, podcasting is really just going to be taking off. And, I got really excited about podcasting. And when I get excited about something, I want to share it with people. I want to let other people know about it. I want to, tell my clients, tell my fellow entrepreneurs about these new technologies. And it happened to be that as I was getting ready to launch this podcast, I started seeing the advertisements for the Parnassah Expo. And I remember hearing from the year before how successful it was and how they had thousands of people that attended. And I said, wow, this is my crowd. I mean, my niche, so to speak, is the Frum Entrepreneur. And what better conference for me to speak at than the Parnassah Expo? And it was a few weeks just before the expo. And usually, you want to plan these things in advance. You want to have months of advanced knowledge so you can really prepare properly, know what you're going to speak about, prepare your presentation, book your flight, and, everything else that goes into flying into the States. But, and plus usually, conferences book their speakers many, many months in advance. But I said, you know what? I told my wife, I said, listen, if I'm going to ask them if they want me to speak, especially about podcasting, it's something new. It's something that hasn't been spoken about yet in the Frum community. And I felt it was something that I really wanted to share. So I'll contact them. If there's room for me to come speak, I'll be more than happy to come and speak. If not, then I'll just take it that it wasn't meant to be yet. And I'll just keep, launching on my own. But so I contacted the conference, and sure enough, they said they were booked. But, when I explained to them my proposition, I basically said to them, I said, listen, a point of the conference is to really give tools and technologies and, what's new and what's working and what's exciting out to, the people attending the conference. People don't want to hear the same old. They want to hear what's new and they want to hear what's exciting. And when I explained it to them, they said, okay, you know what? We got a spot for you. And I think this was like 2 weeks before the conference. That meant in 2 weeks, I had to book my flight, book my car, make arrangements for me staying, in the States. And plus I had this presentation that I had to really put together. And, I wanted to, really give it over in the best way I can. So I spent the next 2 weeks, just really concentrating on putting the presentation together, going over what I'm going to speak about. Plus, at the same time, I wanted to launch my own podcast and have that ready because, how do I speak about podcasting if I don't even have my own podcast? So it was an intense time, which really excites me as an entrepreneur. I love the excitement in that. And I just felt that it was important for me to come and speak about. So I made the arrangements. I spoke on the second day of the conference. I was the second to last speech that went on before the main. They have this Shark Tank thing, which is the most exciting part about the Parnassah Expo. And so I spoke right before that. And, I was very excited to, bring my feelings, bring my passion about it. And a good friend of mine at the conference who had a booth there is Yosef Davis, who is the director of Torah Anytime. And it's funny, actually, we're going to have Yosef Davis on, I don't know if it's the next episode or one of the future episodes where he's going to discuss Torah Anytime. Now, Torah Anytime is absolutely fantastic. And, I'm going to save it for the episode when we talk to Yosef, but it was fantastic that they were there and I got to see my old buddy and he videotaped it for me, just like he would any other Torah Anytime video. So he recorded it and he sent it to me, and I posted it up on YouTube. It's gotten, I'm not sure it's up to, I think it was like 1,200 views within just a week. I mean, I sent it out to my email list, posted it in a few places, and the feedback has been extremely positive. And, I want you, the purpose of this podcast is to try to get you to watch that video, because I don't want to go into all the details about why it's important to podcast, although I think it is, and, why it is specifically geared for the Frum community. Now is the time to really get started, where your niche is still open in the Frum community. And I go into detail on that in this video. So what I'll do is I'll tell you a little bit about what the video is about. Then, I hope you'll go and you'll listen to it. And I just think that when you see my passion, when you see me talking about it on the video, I think, and plus I have a presentation, you'll be able to see the presentation, see my passion, see me speaking. I think it's worth, investing the time. I think it's about 45 minutes long or so. It's definitely worth listening to. In the podcast, I talked about what is podcasting, why now is the time to podcast, why 2015, this year, is going to be considered the year of the podcast, motivations to podcasting, who needs to be podcasting, different podcasting formats, podcasting for Frummies, which was what I titled the speech, Podcasting for Frummies. And basically in that topic, I talk about, why for the Frum community now is the best time to get involved and to really make, stake your claim, so to speak. Choosing your niche. How do you choose your niche, or what to speak about, what your podcast should be about? How to monetize. I believe I go into over 10 ways on how to monetize your podcast. What you need to get started, what equipment you need, what software, what are show notes. I mean, I'll just tell you now, show notes. Anybody that's been following my podcast, that at the end of my podcast, I say, hey, please check out the show notes, because most podcasts are consumed when you're not in front of a computer, and, when you're driving or you're exercising or just lying down and relaxing, just taking in the content. But a lot of times I'll mention a person, I'll mention a company, I'll mention a web link that I feel is important for you to check out. And so all that information goes into the show notes. And so I talk about show notes and why they're important. I talk about distribution. Once you have your podcast ready, how do you get it out there? Where do you distribute it? And then I also give a free gift, which I will tell you is an ebook called Podcasting for Frummies, which if you're listening to this podcast, just sign up at frumentrepreneur.com, and I will send you a copy. You'll see a place right on the homepage. You'll see a place to enter in your name and your email, and I will send you a free copy of this book, which is going out in about a week. And the book it delves in deeper into, I would say, like the first thing to listen to is obviously this podcast, which you are listening to. Then I would say is to watch the video at the conference, which really goes into more detail. Then the book goes into even more detail and outlines a lot of the things that I spoke about and adds some more content that, I couldn't fit into just a 45-minute presentation. And then my goal was actually to do some Q&A at the end of the conference, but there was no time. It's funny. If you look at the speech, there was no lull. I could have gone on and talked about podcasting for another hour. It's just such an exciting field and such an exciting time to get involved. Think about if you were, if you wanted to start a blog, imagine starting a blog, 10 years ago, where would you and your business be today? And that's really where we are with podcasting. Blogs. So I think right now there's about 300 million blogs, right? And let's say only 10% of blogs are good and worth reading and are updated and have great content, right? That's still 30 million blogs. But if you think about how many podcasts are out there today, I believe the last number given was about 300,000 podcasts. And out of the 300,000 podcasts, only about 10% are quality, right? Only about 10% have great content, have great audio, are worth listening to, are worth following, worth subscribing to. And so, you're talking about 30,000 quality podcasts. That's your competition right now, which means there are still so many niches that are open. For example, if you take, let's say, the entrepreneur niche, right? So there are hundreds of podcasts. I shouldn't say hundreds. Maybe there's tens of good quality podcasts on being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur on Fire is one of the best ones, and one I learned a tremendous amount from John Lee Dumas. And his niche in the entrepreneur world was to do a daily podcast interview with an entrepreneur. And so his niche was not just an entrepreneurial podcast, but a daily entrepreneurial podcast. And so he became the leader in that niche of having a daily entrepreneurial podcast, because I believe he's still the only one that does a daily interview podcast with entrepreneurs. His is a fantastic story to follow. And I'll put in the show notes, I'll put a link to him, but he's definitely worth following and listening to. And then, and my niche in the entrepreneurial space is the Frum entrepreneur, right? I'm targeting my podcast to Orthodox Jewish entrepreneurs from around the world, but there are still, many other niches in how to profit from podcasting. right? And there's, how to, all tools and marketing tools for entrepreneurs, all sorts of podcasts. But if you take your niche, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a psychologist, whether you're another business person, whether you're a small business owner, or pretty much anything that you do, if you have any type of knowledge that is valuable that you can share with other people, chances are your niche is not yet taken, or there's still room in your niche. And even if you're in a niche that there's 3 or 4 other people that are doing the same thing, but it's your unique voice, it's your personality, it's your show to run. And so there's still time, there's still, room to really make an impact in podcasting and get at the top of your game and stay at the top of your game. And I think that's important when you're a marketer, when you have a business, when you're in anything that you're doing for Parnassah, right? There's always, you have to let people know about what you're doing. And I think there's really no better way right now than with quality podcasting. It is the least expensive with the highest impact. It makes more money per CPM, meaning more money is being paid per 1,000 listeners than Super Bowl ads. That's just a fact. I go into that in the video. And if you think about it now, if you're getting involved now with your podcast and you consistently do it, you consistently update it, in 2-3 years' time, you may have, a few hundred episodes, and you'll already be perceived as an expert in your industry. And being an expert is really content for a whole nother podcast, which perhaps I'll do in the future. But, being seen as a leader in your industry, when someone needs to make a decision, let's say you're a psychologist, or let's say you're a shadchan, right? And you want to be known as the shadchan to come to. So if you have a podcast that comes out weekly, where you're talking about shidduchim, and you're talking about the latest stories, and you're talking about people possibly on your list even, when people are looking for a shadchan, who are they going to come to? Someone they see a newspaper ad from, or somebody that has a weekly podcast where they're listening, where they hear the stories, where they see how sensitive the person is, where they see how the shadchan conducts his or her business. And so just by having a podcast, it just opens up a whole new world to people and builds trust in your listeners, builds trust in your clients. And it just really, across any industry, I think there's really no greater impact you could do than launching a podcast. But launching a podcast is really, it's not just about, getting a microphone and talking into it. There's skills and there's a science to it, but it's easily duplicatable, meaning you don't need thousands of dollars in equipment. You don't need a whole production studio. You could really do this even from a corner of your bedroom. You need a good microphone. You need some other tools, which, I tell you about in the presentation and I tell you about in the book. And, for just a few $100s, you could really get started. So, I think that when it comes to, making an impact in your marketing, making an impact in your business, and, whether you're gearing your podcast, whether your business is for other Frum people, or even it's, business, you're in business, serving the whole world, there's really no better way than to really get your message out than with podcasting. So on that note, I just wanted to really explain to you why I'm so passionate about it, why now is the opportunity, when now is the time to get involved. And I encourage you to watch the video, sit down, take a quiet place. It's only about 45 minutes long, and really think about, how you can make an impact in this world, how your business can change by adding a podcast to the mix. So watch the video. The link will be in the show notes as well. And actually, you could find the video. It's on my website, frumentrepreneur.com. And, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any feedback. I'd love to discuss it with you. I am helping and selecting a few people that I'm going to be coaching. I already have a couple that I'm doing so, helping them get their own podcast launched. I still have room for a couple more people if that is something you're interested in. A lot of people, they have what to talk about, but they don't have the marketing knowledge. They don't want to build the website. They don't know how to edit their videos. All these things is stuff that I can do and I could help you with. So if you're someone that just has tons of content, loves to speak, loves to talk, loves to get your message out, but doesn't necessarily want to go through the nitty-gritty aspects of, how do I get it on iTunes? How do I post it on Stitcher? How do I promote it? And all these other things, then, obviously, please be in contact with me. And if it's a good fit, perhaps we could work together. In any case, thank you so much. I just want to also thank you. This is now the 6th episode I've done of the podcast. I've had some great interviews already. I have some fantastic interviews coming up over the next few weeks. And I want to thank all my listeners. It's really been exciting to, put something out there and to get feedback and to know that there are listeners literally all over the world. And it shows really the power of podcasting. But I know that really you have tons of selections of different things you could be doing with your time. And for those that spend the time, especially those entrepreneurs that want to learn and want to grow and that are listening to this podcast, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for following. Thank you for listening. I hope that I'm able to enhance your business somehow. I'm hoping, there's a lot more in the works now for the Frum Entrepreneur. It's not just a podcast, although we are launching as a podcast, but there's a book coming out as well, besides the podcasting for Frummies, but there's a book on Frum Entrepreneur that's coming out. There are some events that are in the beginning stages of formatting, a lot of exciting stuff, a lot of exciting ideas. And really the whole idea about the Frum Entrepreneur is to help other Frum entrepreneurs become successful. And whether it's through networking events or knowledge or sharing knowledge of other entrepreneurs, whatever we can do to help us as a community grow and support ourselves, that's really what this is about. I was reading, I'm not sure it was a Mishpacha magazine or Ami magazine about, how the challenging times that we are in, we know about with Parnassah issues. And, especially in Israel, where there are a lot of movements for the Haredi community specifically to get out into the workforce, but there has been and there is a tremendous prejudice against hiring Haredi people, even those that have gone and gotten the education. I'm not making this up. This is something you could read about online or read in Hamodia, read in newspapers. It's something that's real. And it could take, years and years before that bias continues to hopefully get smaller and smaller, and people realize and look at the value of having a Frum person or a Haredi person as someone that works for them. But when we, as a Haredi community, or a Frum community, when we create a business and we help our fellow Frum entrepreneurs become successful, then that's just going to spread in our community. It's more likely we're going to hire people from our community, help other people grow, and that's really, one of the reasons why I'm putting in this effort and putting out this content is I really want to see our community grow. I really want to create opportunities for people, and I want to really, help invest and put money and time and efforts into making our community successful and having that backbone, having that network to really grow your business, to really grow as an entrepreneur. And that is something I feel that is missing in our community. So over the next weeks and months, as you follow the Frum Entrepreneur, you'll see more and more events and products and stuff coming out that's really being put together to help service our community. But, I myself, when I interview these fellow entrepreneurs, I'm always looking to grow. I'm always looking to learn. So if you have an idea for an event, an idea for how we can help our community, please reach out to me. Let's do it as a team. Let's work together and let's try to make our community a successful entrepreneurial community.
Thank you for listening to the Frum Entrepreneur Podcast with Nachum Kligman. We hope you learned something valuable and will share this with your friends. For show notes, archives of previous episodes, and more information to help you start and grow your business, please visit our website, www.frumentrepreneur.com. Listen, learn, be Matzliach.